Today I'm going to show you everything I've learned about planting seedlings. First of all, I'll say that we've been gardening for probably about 5-ish years, and we've done a mix of raised bed gardening and hydroponic gardening. And one thing I've always fell in love with both processes is starting seeds. You can go to the store and waste your money on those little cups about yay big, and it'll have a single plant in it, and it'll be like $5 or $6 for a plant. And I mean, no one's saving money at that point. You're just basically running a very expensive gardening hobby. So really, if you're trying to grow your own food, try to save a little money in the process, eat a little healthier, starting your own seeds is really the only way to go. So today I'm gonna show you a little bit about what I've learned in this process, because there's 1,000 different ways you can do this. And I'm not professing to be a master at it. I'm just going to simply show you my way. And first things first, what do you need? Honestly, you could start with something simple, like you can get you a solo cup and throw you a little seed starting mix, throw some seeds in, and boom, you've started seeds. But if you want to do something a little bit larger, I'll show you what we've kind of grown into, and we are not done yet. We're going to keep growing this process, and I'll probably have to update this video in a couple of years when we're, big business. But first, starting out, basics of any kind of seed starting venture is going to be the material. We use Jiffy seed starting mix. There's 1,000 things you could be using. You could go and just dig some dirt out of your backyard, but I wouldn't recommend it because that is not the same as a good seed starting mix. A good seed starting mix is going to have material and organic matter that is perfect for growing seeds in. It holds moisture, lets water drain away, and it just gives a nice fluffy light medium for the seeds to get the best start possible and let those roots really develop. So, starting out, we got our seed starting mix. What do you put it in? Well, we use these seed starting 6 tray cells. We got these from Epic Gardening. They are really heavy duty. We've gotten a couple of these, but I'll be honest, we still use plenty of I don't have any up here, but we still use plenty of the ones that you get from the store and recycle those. They're supposed to be one-time use, but let's face it, you can use them as many times as you want until they fall apart. So how do you fill one of these? Super easy. All you do, scoop some dirt into it and just kind of fluff it around and get you a nice light filling of dirt. All right. Get this here so I'm not making a huge mess. Once you got nice fluffy dirt, I give it a little bit of packing with my fingers and just kind of pack down that dirt just a little bit. We're not going for crazy packed in. So now once I get the shoved down, I just come back in real nice and light and just fill in that mix again. And then this guy is ready to go. That's a perfect seed bed for your seeds. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of these filled, and we'll keep going from there. And like I said, I really love this process. I like the idea of being able to use something once and refill it and use it again over and over and over. Because then that means that your investment that you took the first time through, basically you only have to pay that once, and then from then on out, you're basically getting free seedlings for the rest of your life with just a little bit of forethought and work. So I've got a couple of these already filled up. I'm going to go ahead and clear this space, and I'll talk about the rest of it. All right, I've got a couple 6 cells started up here. And today, I'll be honest, we're to the point where we are actually planting out. If you can see over here, a bunch of our seedlings are ready to go outside. And so you might be asking yourself, well, why are you starting seeds if you're about to start? Well, that's the cool thing about seed starting, is that this is an ongoing thing. These plants will go out and they'll do great, but you want to kind of plant the next round of plants that are coming behind it. Because, in Florida, we have a really long growing season. We can get 3, 4, sometimes even 5 waves of seed planting in our season and be just fine. We also can plant several things that are normally direct sown. We'll plant them out there, but sometimes I'll plant them, here, just in case those don't take off. We'll have something that we can swap them out with and kind of triage just in case we got to go. We have our seed starting mix, which I didn't mention. It's very important to hydrate before because it comes in the bag bone dry. You just pour about a gallon of water in there, mix it up, and make sure it's nice and moist before you start working with it. And we put it in this thing called a 10-20 tray. We've also purchased these. You can get some cheap ones, but it's nice to get some really nice heavy duty ones because this is now the 3rd year that I've used these and we abuse them. They stay outside, they roast in the sun, and they are still plenty strong. So as far as planting seeds, what do you got to do? Not much. I just take my seed poker, which is just a pencil, and I come through here and I just poke my holes. And you're asking yourself, Daniel, how deep do I poke the holes? Until you feel like you're good enough. But the back of the seed packets will tell you approximately how deep to plant the seeds. Some like to be just barely sprinkled on the surface. Others like to be planted a little bit deeper. So first things first, I'm going to plant a couple cucumbers. We are going to go and direct sow these outside, but I'm going to get at least, I think 6 started today that we're going to have ready to go, just in case. So I'm going to get my 6 seeds out right here. Now, we usually have pretty good luck with cucumber seeds starting. So I'm only going to put 1 seed per hole. Now, a lot of times when I plant tomatoes and especially peppers, they will take, they don't always germinate the best. So we will drop 2, sometimes if the seeds are old, we'll drop 3 in there and the plants will come up, and then you have to do the most difficult thing in the world where, and I know this is hard, where you'll have 1 or 2 plants come up and you have to make a decision which one gets to live. Because honestly, if you have a situation where you have 2 plants come up, for example, let's see if I got one over here. Yes. So for example, I have this basil that I've started here. You can see, like in this cell right here, I've got 2 basil plants that came up in this one cell. Now, I know that if I let these go in here, they're not going to grow to their best potential. They're not going to root out properly, and they're really just going to be competing for nutrients. So I have to make a decision on which one I'm going to remove. Now, I'll be honest, I'll usually pick the one that looks the best, but in this case, they both kind of look good. So in that case, I'll literally try to see if I can rescue one of them. So what I do is I'll poke a hole in one where one didn't come up, and I'll see if I could just very gently pull one of these guys out, being careful not to disturb the other. And you can see I got those roots in there. Let's poke him back down. And then we're going to see if we could just get him down in here. Smash that all in. And now this little seedling lives to see another day. Hopefully, we'll see. So we're going to let these kind of continue to grow up. And like I said, we have started these seeds a while ago. I've got a lot of stuff already going. And, we're kind of playing our garden a little bit differently this year, rather than what we've done in the past, where I've actually just seeded one time and then just, hoped for the best. And then usually around July, everything's done and I don't have anything ready to go out. So we're going to do much better this year. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, I planted those cucumbers, and I don't know if you can see, I didn't do one of the most important things of seed starting. I have these cucumbers in this cell right here. So these are still ready to go because I can see my holes. Now, most important thing when you plant seeds is you want to know what's in the dirt, because right now you have no idea. So here's what you need to do. There's a lot of things you can do. You can go out and get popsicle sticks or tape or all that stuff, whatever. You can buy these little tags on Amazon They are $8 and you get 500 of them. They're so cheap, and we're honestly probably never going to run out of them. So, I mean, you could play with tape and label makers and popsicle sticks, but honestly, just get these little tags. They're so easy to use. So I'm going to go ahead and label my seedlings now so I don't forget what I put in there. All right. So I'm going to continue to go ahead and seed those, but I want to just talk about what's next. So like as the seeds grow up, we take them and I put them under a light. And the most important thing about starting seeds is where are they going to grow? Oftentimes you start them indoors and you're not going to start them in some little dinky light bulb, and you can't rely on the sunlight from a window, for example, to be enough. That's another thing that we kind of failed at first, where at first I got just a single light and I thought I was going to do 3 or 4 trays under it because, you know, the light hit all of it, but it wasn't enough. If you ever see videos where you have like these long, nasty, gross, lengthy, leggy seedlings, it's usually a light problem. So you can go on the internet. You don't have to get the most expensive ones. Just go and buy like a 6-pack of the cheapest grow lights you can find. They're about, you know, anywhere between $60 to $80 for the 6 of them. And just put them on a shelf and just let your seedlings live under that, and put it on a timer, because, you know, they need a chance to grow up and rest and grow and rest and grow and rest, just like, you know, they would outside. So you want to simulate that as best as you can. Another important thing is when the seedlings start growing up, put a little fan on them, a little tiny oscillating fan. I have like a little 9-inch fan that we put on them. It just blows a little bit of air and it makes them nice and strong, because there's going to come a day where we're going to put them outside, and here in Florida, it can get pretty windy, especially when some thunderstorms come, and they need to be ready for that. So just get you a little fan so that they can grow up and be strong little seedlings. All right, so let's talk about watering. This has got to be one of the hardest things about starting seeds, because seedlings absolutely need to be watered. They can't dry out even for a second. And I think a lot of us, we get that in our minds and say, well, if they need to be watered and moist all the time, then I just need to water them all the time. And that's not exactly the best thing, because you can tend to get algae growing on the surface. Like for example, this seedling right here, it's got a little bit of algae grown on the top, because these have been absolutely soaking wet because we had them outside and it rained a little bit. And so those are absolutely soaked, but it's okay. You know, there's a lot of grace in starting seeds. If you do the right thing for long enough, you know, they can weather a little bump here and there. So when it comes time to watering, you don't want to just sit here and spray your seedlings. Now, these are absolutely huge. These peppers have been growing since about the first week of January. It is now the first week of March. So these have been in here about 8 weeks, and these are ready to go out. And they're absolutely, you know, gorgeous. I've never grown pepper seedlings this great, so I'm having them here to show them off. But every time I would water them, even though there is water on the leaves now, because like I said, it was raining outside and we had them outside hardening them off, which we'll talk about in a minute. You want to make sure that you water them properly. Now, in this 10-20 tray, you'll have these pots, and they all have the holes or slits right in the bottom of each of the pots. And when you go to water, all you simply do is you take the watering can and you just fill this tray about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, basically, I would say a pinky width deep in the pan. And then over the next couple hours, all these seedling trays will soak up that water. And what you don't want is for there to be water sitting in that tray for too terribly long. Give it about an hour or two, and if there's still water sitting in the tray, just go ahead and pour off that excess water. That means that they've soaked up as much as they can. And that's called bottom watering. It'll basically cause the medium to soak up the water from the bottom, leaving the top of it relatively dry so that you don't get fungus or algae or any kind of mildew or anything on the seedlings like that. And that'll also encourage the roots to grow further down and search for that water when it starts to go away. So bottom watering your seedlings like every 2 or 3 days or whenever you feel like it needs it, that's honestly the best way. Now, when I started, you know, someone on a video just like you're watching now would say that, and I would ask myself, well, how do you know how much is enough water? How do you know how often to water it? You say water until it's enough. And I get that I'm saying that same thing to you. So here's the test that you want to do. Now, this one has water all in it, but if you come up to your tray and you lift it and it feels very light, then it's time to water. Now, and if you go like this and it feels like there's a little bit of weight to it, then you're good. That's honestly the best advice I can give you. You'll know, and the more you do this, you'll know when your seedlings need water. Now, if you come in and all your seedlings look wilted and sad, they obviously need water. If they don't look that way, then they're probably fine. It's best to err on the side of not enough water, or I mean, don't overwater rather than absolutely drowning them. So that pretty much covers watering. All right, so now that we have all the seedlings in here, now I said you never water from the top except when you first put them in. What I have here is a little garden sprayer. It's got some water in it, nothing else. And I'm just gonna go ahead and once these are all in, just give these a nice, well, I say that. I'm gonna give these a nice little soaking down as I put them in here for the first time. I don't know why this thing's making so much noise. There you go. All right, so now when we have these all watered in, and now the most important thing is when they germinate. Now it'll say on the seed packet how long it'll take for that germination to happen. Some seeds, like for example, tomatoes and tomatoes take about 5 to 7 days to germinate. Peppers can take up to 10 or even 2 weeks to germinate. Some herbs can take even longer than that. Cucumbers usually come up in like 1 to 3 days. But the most important thing is that you have to keep that seed moist that whole time. You can't let it dry out even for a second. And the best way to do that is to, one, closely monitor and make sure that the cells have moisture in them. But in order to keep that top of the surface moist, you're going to need plastic wrap. Now, I'm completely out of plastic wrap here, so if I'll be right back. All right, plastic wrap acquired. So like I said, this plastic wrap, what it'll do is it will kind of create a little bit of a greenhouse effect on your seedlings. So while they're first starting to germinate, all that moisture that's on the top of the soil will be trapped under there, keeping them moist. But you have to check these almost every single day, because as soon as you see them start to pop, little sprouts coming out, you have to take it off because you don't want those to rot. But this will give them a really good chance at making it. So another thing that you got to pay attention to is some seedlings, and it'll say on the packet, some of them like a certain temperature. So for example, peppers and tomatoes and some herbs, they actually would stand to benefit from a little bit of heat. They like it around that 70 to 80 degrees. Whereas in your house, hopefully, it is not that warm. But other things also don't need a heat mat. So it's very important to read and do your research on each individual seed on what it needs. Now, this is ready to go into the other room there, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so as your seedlings start to grow, you'll notice that when they first start to pop out, a little stem will pop out, and the first tiniest little leaves will start to show. For example, I don't know if you can see this one. These first two leaves right here, That's called the seedling leaves, the first leaves. You know, those are like in the seed itself, and when they pop up, those will start to come out. But then you'll notice that shortly after that, what will happen on top of those will be what they call the true leaves. And once those true leaves start to pop out, that's about the time you want to start thinking about giving your seedlings something to eat, because the seeds contain everything they need for their first few stages of life. They don't need any food. All they need is water and light. And but once the true leaves start coming out, they start needing that nutrition. Now, what I usually opt for is just a little bit of this fertilizer that I have left over from my hydroponic days. You can use any well-balanced fertilizer, but this is basically a water-soluble fertilizer, and I just take a teaspoon, just very little bit, a teaspoon, maybe a half a tablespoon, and I mix it into my watering can, and that's all the food that they're going to get. You feed them one time, and then you don't really feed them again until you uppot them. Speaking of uppotting, what is that? Eventually your plants will get to the point where they have completely overgrown and outgrown their container. And what we usually do, once you got pretty good roots, you know, the seedling has obviously filled out the container, we want to put it into something bigger so it can continue its life. Because sometimes, like for example, my tomato plants, you know, they get to a point where they're too big for the cell that they're in, and these have already been uppotted, but they're not ready to go outside yet because, you know, you got to wait for conditions to get good. So uppotting is a very simple process. You could go out and you can buy all sorts of pots. We got these from the dollar store, like 3 for $1. Well, actually it's $1.25 now. Thank you to inflation. And these are cheap. Honestly, I honestly don't like them that much. These feel cheap. You get them out in the sun and they start to break apart, and I don't honestly recommend them. So what I have started to use is something we all know about, is solo cups. And you can get the same effect as this thing, but for about $1.50, you can get about 50 of these, or you can get 3 of these. And the only thing that this has that the solo cup doesn't is holes on the bottom. So I actually had to poke these. They don't actually come with them, but they have little spots where you can poke them out. See, they just kind of poke the holes through right there. But you can get the same effect with a solo cup. All you have to do is just take a pair of scissors and scissors right here and just cut little slits in the bottom of the hole. So if you just get you a solo cup, I got some new ones here, and all you have to do is just very simply just chink and chink. You're already done. See? Easy, nothing to it. Now it has that somewhere for that water to drain out, or if you have it in your 10-20 tray, it can draw that water up into the roots. So we just take a little bit of more. You could use seed starting mix or potting mix. I just happen to have the seed starting mix here, so that's what I'm going to use. You just put that into the cup, and you take your seedling and poke out your seedling as much or as carefully as you can, making sure that you don't damage the roots. And you just take that guy, sink him right in there, and just push, push, push. And now this guy is happy, and he looks a lot more comfortable in his container, and he can grow to be a much larger plant and give him more time before you put him outdoors. So that's the importance of uppotting. So I've pretty much covered everything so far. The only thing I haven't done so far is timing, okay? So you might be excited, you know, right after Christmas, New Year, you're like, oh man, I gotta get some seeds started. If you're down here in the South, that's when we start it. If you're up north, you probably aren't gonna start seeds for a month or so. But, you know, we get excited sometimes, and you don't wanna jump the gun because timing is everything. On a seed packet, it'll tell you when to plant the seeds. So for example, on this packet of honeydew here, it says plant, you can start indoors 3 weeks before the frost, or you can direct sow 1 to 2 weeks after the last frost. And if you don't know when your last frost date is, just go online, say, what is my last frost date? And then give your city or zip code, and it will tell you. But You don't want to plant these too far in advance, because what'll happen is you'll have a plant that's way too big, hard to manage, and it's ready to go outside, but you still got a few more weeks before it can actually survive out there. So it's important to pay attention to these dates. You can look at each individual seed packet to see if it's something that you want to, or when you need to plant each one, or you can get one of these handy little charts that we got from MI Gardener, and it will tell you, I got this on the spring side here, and you just kind of move the thing back and forth to when your last frost date is. So like ours is right here at the end of February, and then it will tell you when you should start each of these things, whether starting them indoors or starting them outside. But it's very important to make sure that your timing is good. For example, I start my peppers probably that second week of January. I live in northern Florida where we're zone 9A, and our last frost date is March 1st. It's right there at the end of February. And, you know, pepper plants need to grow about 6 to 8 weeks before they can get ready to go outside. And you definitely want to make sure that it's nice and warm out there for them. But tomatoes, they don't need 8 weeks to grow. They can grow just fine in 5 or 6 weeks. So I didn't start them until a couple weeks later. Just what I'm saying is that you want to make sure that you are very mindful about when you're planting your stuff and getting it out there. One final tip is don't think that you're only going to be planting seeds one time and then you're done. Seed planting is one of those things that we'll continue to do as we move throughout the year. For example, we have a ton of our tomatoes ready to go out. We are going to get these guys out in the ground today, and if everything goes well, they will produce an awesome harvest. But they're determinate style tomato, and they are going to be all done right around the first week of July. Now, what I'm going to do is right around the middle of June, I'm going to start another round of tomato seeds, so that when those are all done and they've given everything that they'll give, I'll have another set of tomatoes ready to go so that we can see if we can't get another tomato harvest in before the end of the year. And that would be absolutely amazing, because our space is limited and we want to take full advantage of what we got. One more thing I want to mention is right before your seedlings are ready to go outside, you want to do a process, what is known as hardening off, okay? When you grow your seedlings indoor, it's usually a constant temperature, a nice mid-70s, if that's what you like to keep your air conditioner at, and that's all they know. But outside is much different. It can get up to 80, 85 degrees, and it can also drop down to 60, sometimes upper 50s. So what you want to do is train your seedlings to go outside a couple days before you plant. So what we do is we take our trays, and we'll actually put them in the front yard and let them enjoy the sunshine for a little bit. Let them get used to what a real light source is like, you know, instead of the dinky lights that we have on the shelf. And let them just kind of soak that up for a couple hours and bring them back inside. We jokingly call it bringing our plants on a field trip, and we'll do that for a couple days with the weeks leading up till the time we plant. And then eventually we just let them live outside for a while until they're ready to plant. But you want to definitely complete this hardening off process so that your seedlings are ready to go outside and face the real world. With all that being said, guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Like I said, I am not an expert at this. I'm just here sharing with you what I've learned. I still have plenty of things to learn, and if you think that I've missed anything in this video, please let me know down in the comment section so I can learn. And or if you have any tips that you think that I missed, that you think people should know about, leave that down there too. Don't forget to hit like on that video, and if you like what we're doing here as we grow our homestead, just smash that subscribe button, and we'll keep cranking out the videos. All right, well, appreciate it, guys. Have a great day, and hope you learned something.